Light on Super FM 92.7. Yes, so welcome to another beautiful edition of the show. Yesterday, as usual, Spotlight is the show where we dissect the top trending stories relating from politics, governance, education, business, and many well-informed and Trojan analysis. So today, we'll head to the educational aspect of the country. We'll talk about education now reform in Nigeria. Yes, educational reform in Nigeria. Do you know that Nigeria is undertaking significant education reforms? With the most notable change being a shift from the current 6334 system to a 12-year uninterrupted basic education framework. Yes, do you know that? But this also involves extending compulsory schooling to 12 years and integrating digital literacy. Also, we have technical and we have vocational training into the curriculum. Well, the goal is to make sure to enhance educational continuity, reduce dropout, and better prepare students for the workforce. And joining us live to look at these issues in educational reform is a university lecturer and also a lawyer. No other person than Barrister Deji Olaleye. Barrister, good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning. How are we today?
We're fine. Thank God for life. Also, let me also let you know that the Joint Admission and Matriculation Board, JAM, released a statistical breakdown of the 2025 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination, revealing that over 1.5 million of the 1.95 million candidates scored below 200 over 400. This is a drastic drop, in previous examinations of JAM. And sometimes we ask the question, why? That's a big question we're asking today. Well, we have a lecturer who will definitely be taking us into the university system and how all of this is happening. But let's look at sometimes I will ask those questions, why all of this happening in our educational system. And this 12-year basic education, we have that. We also have the issues of curriculum update. We have also the challenges that facing all of this. We'll also be looking at the skills, the focus on skills and employability in all of this system. But let me, like our lecturer is here first. What do you think about the 12-year basic education?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the poor performance that we are experiencing at the moment is a fallout of the indifference of government to education and lack of funding of education that we have experienced, particularly since this government came into office. I'm sure you know the standard globally as set by the UNESCO is that 25% of a country's budget should be allocated to education if there is going to be any significant achievement in that sector. But unfortunately, the budget the last 2 years that this government had came into office has been less than almost 1% to education. And there's a deliberate policy to withdraw government funding to education. So it's not just about JAM. It's a general problem that has been created as a result of the policies of the government. Okay. I'm sure you know that the government had withdrawn all kinds of subventions and allocations to the university system. And of course, even the UBE, the Universal Basic Education Program, in most of the states, they are not functioning properly. Of course, problems of poor welfare of teachers and indifferent attitude to provisions of infrastructures that the students will need for their studies and all of that. Even the amenities and the facilities and the conditions under which most of these students are being taught is nothing to write home about. It's nothing worthy of any state that wants to achieve anything in the area of education. So, and I think this is just the outcome of our policies towards education, you know.
But with all of this,
generally, as a nation, our attitude.
Wow. Let me bring you back to the beginning of the conversation, where growing up, we looked forward to the system of 6-3-3-4 system, where you have to go through nursery school, primary, and then secondary, and all of that. But now, we have seen a system, they're bringing up a system of 12 years uninterrupted basic education. First, is that perfect for us in Nigeria? Is that a good one? And that's one. And also the issue of technical schools and vocational training, in bringing it into our curriculum. Is that would that also be a perfect one? Especially now that it seems to be like Nigerians are no longer eager with this habit of old school help, this help. Well, all of this lackadaisical attitude towards education. Do you think this 12 years uninterrupted basic education framework will bring about clarity in Nigeria?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. I think one of the problems is what you have just explained: instability in policy fluctuations. We tend to talk about reforms, but we are not very certain the way we want our reform to go. Neither are we interested in structurally making adjustments that will better improve the quality of education. Some of the time, even when they talk about reform, most of the ideas behind it is just how to throw money into some areas that they think they want to put money into. There are no proper planning, no proper structural agenda for any achievement in those sectors. And I think that's the problem we're having, this policy fluctuation. Government keeps coming up with different ideas that are unworkable, that are not feasible in the educational sector. And some of these policies are developed as a reaction to the circumstances and situations that are arising in the educational sector. They are not proactive, they are not strategic, in their delivery. It's just about being seen as conducting reforms. Of course, you remember recently there was an attempt to throw up the idea that unless you are 18 years and above, you cannot go into the university and all of that. That policy was reactionary. It was a reactionary, and of course, that died naturally.
Are you against that policy? Do you support that policy, or you're against it?
Of course, anyone will be against that policy. There's a natural growth of the educational sector, of the process that had always been in place all over the world, globally. If you look at the index of those who enter universities in most countries, there is no age limit. We have young people who are skilled, who are brilliant people. Some of them are at the top of their class. If you get to most of the European schools, most of the Ivy League schools in Europe and in America, you find that most of the best students there are from Korea, China, and maybe Africa. And many of them are very young people. Most of the professors you find in MIT or Stanford in the US, they are young professors. Some of them even up to 30-something years. So why should you put an age limit? Is that what will improve the quality of the education? I don't get it. So these are some of the reactionary attitude of our policymakers to educational reform. And that's why we're not getting anything out of it, government does not see education as its responsibility. They are only interested in the control of education, but they're not interested in funding it. They are not interested in improving and imparting quality into the education in terms of infrastructures and amenities and provisions of basic needs, and also the welfare of the teachers or the people who are handling the educational sector. Government is not interested. Of course, you can see over the years, the persistent strikes by teachers and the Nigerian Labour Congress and all those who are involved in the educational sector.
Yeah.
We don't seem to have a direction or a goal that we are achieving as a nation. In other countries, they set goals for research, they set goals for the number of students, they make plans ahead for number of students that will come from the primary schools to the secondary school, and there are gradings. You know, there are gradings that are put in place, policies put in place for education in most advanced country, organized country. But Nigeria seems not to be an organized country when you talk about the educational reform. It's really unfortunate. And some of the people that manage the economic educational policy are not even fit. They don't understand what educational management is all about, or plans and programs.
Still talking about
these are some of the challenges.
The Minister of Education, Tunji Alausa, announced the upgrade of 38 federal and state technical colleges across Nigeria as part of comprehensive reform. How will you react to this? Upgrading technical colleges? There should be the way it is, and then create other better reforms. Because sometimes
we like to.
I'm coming, Barrister. Sometimes
you
see that some students they go for all these technical colleges, technical schools, but it still looks as if they are empty. It still looks as if, again, and go to university and take BSc. So where do you think this is missing? What do you think is missing in all of these reforms?
Proliferate institutions without making adequate provisions for equipment of those institutions. The government keep licensing universities everywhere, you know, and no plan at all for manpower development. You don't just set up universities, set up technical colleges that are not equipped, that you don't have any plans to equip, just for the sake of setting them up. It's unfortunate that that's the policy right now. People are being licensed to set up institutions that are not equipped, that don't have any specific goals. It takes the gestation of the manpower needed for a university, for instance, or a college of technology is not in a day. It's not built in a day. It takes years to develop and to train lecturers. How many PhDs, for instance, are being churned out from our universities in this country? How many PhDs do we have? What are the programs to at least ensure that people have scholarship, people have trainings that can lead them to higher skills in research? There are none. And of course, you are setting up so many universities, you don't have enough lecturers to even man those universities. That's why you find that lecturers go from 3-4 universities on adjuncts, to teach at different universities, just to make money. And you keep licensing some of these institutions for political reasons. Almost every politician wants to have a university now. So there's no adequate planning. There's no provision of infrastructure and facility.
You made a statement now that almost all politicians want to have a university. Is that the names of does that add up in a CV, in a politician's CV?
I don't know why they are opening universities. Some of them are even illiterate. Can you imagine somebody who is an illiterate setting up a university?
Anyway,
it's unfortunate.
Very, very, very unfortunate sometimes when things like this happen in Nigeria. Don't forget, Lagos, you can be part of this conversation today. Yes, a lot of things are drastically dropping in the educational system in Nigeria. Yes, it's time for you to make your comment on the Spotlight on Super FM and 92.7. Your scholars on the 0705 690 0927 0705 690 0927. You can also send us a WhatsApp message via that number. You can also send us a WhatsApp message via that number 0705 690 0927. Or call us on 0802 502 7711 0802 502 7711. The other lines is 0802 978 8003. 0802 978 8003. All right. Yes. That's the statistics. We need to call out here. The statistics shows that so far 1.9 million results. This 2025 UTME stats says that about 220 scores. Can you hear me, Barrister?
Yeah.
Barrister, can you hear me?
No, I didn't get you.
I mean, I was stating a statistics for this UTME 2025 UTME stats that says that yes, UTME stats that 320. That's those that score 320. We have just 0.24%. Those that score below 100, 10%. Those that score 100 to 119, they're about 0.20%. Those that score 120 to 139, they're about 2.94%. Those that score 140 to 159, about 24.97%. And now those that score 160 to 199, they're about 50.29%. Barrister, I will tell you, those that score 250 to 299, they're about 3.76%. So below average. And the question is, you are a lecturer. You see all of this happening in our educational system. You are also a father. You also, a man who has seen it all in the educational system. What do you think are the problems? Why these figures are drastically coming down? Why do you think students no longer see education as something that is paramount, something that is of importance to their life? There's this slogan that is being used everywhere that school na scam. First, that is secondly, I'll put it to you there. Will you agree, or definitely I know, or will you also adhere to this slang of school na scam with the way things are going right now in our dear country?
Yes, thank you very much for that question. Well, I think this is the first signal of the ultimate collapse of our educational sector. The poor performance that you have enumerated with those statistics, they are initial evidence of the fact that the Nigerian educational sector is disintegrating, is declining.
So much.
And that something has to be done. But like most other policies of state, you find that we only react to situations like this. And thereafter, ideas, opinions that are suggested are never implemented. There is a need to go back to the drawing board. The government needs to sit down and be sure of what exactly direction they want the educational sector to go. But right now, there is no direction, there is no goal, there is no agenda for the educational sector. Children are coming out of primary school every year and they are moving into secondary school. People are moving from secondary school, trying to get into the universities, but there are no policies for proper engagement, educational engagement of those students. Now, those statistics you have shows that our young ones are no longer prioritizing education. And of course,
why do you think so? Why do you think so?
It's not far-fetched.
Okay.
Yes, the reason is not far-fetched. Like I've mentioned earlier on, there is a question of poor facilities in most of our schools.
On the side of the parents or the side of the schools, the government?
Both the government, the school, and the parents. Poor funding by government, first of all. Poor funding. Government is no longer, the government are privatized education. But yes, they still hold on to the control of the educational sector. I don't know how that works.
Who do we hold responsible here? Who do we hold responsible here?
It's the government.
Or the parents? How about the parents of these words?
Not the parents. The parents cannot even afford. The parents cannot even afford quality education for their children anymore. Nigerian parents cannot afford good education. Is it somebody who is being paid 70,000 naira per month that will pay a school fees of a son or a daughter in the university of almost 500,000?
But how about the fact that even these words are no longer hungry for education? This thirst for knowledge is no longer there. I was walking down somewhere in an estate, and I saw kids, children, coming under the street light to read. And I asked myself, wow, this is incredible. Most of these things, not everyone has that urge. Some will say, well, some parents will just have this like a cynical attitude and sit back and relax. That, see, what is concerned to them is how they will even feed their family first. How much more trying to pay for this and that. We know how expensive education could be now. Even the public schools are no longer free anymore. Even the unity schools are no longer also free anymore. So, are we going to point fingers? Are we going to point fingers to the government in this aspect, or the parents, or are we going to say it's a combination of both?
It starts with the government. Like I said, it starts with the government. The government must be seen as being interested. The government must be seen as education. Right now, the federal government has not shown any indication that they are ready to develop our educational sector, or they are even interested in it as far as the policies of state are concerned. Now, apart from poor funding, do you know that a lot of Nigerian youth don't believe in the educational sector anymore? Many of them are interested in just how to make money now. In fact, there is a common saying on in most schools now that school itself is scam. Why should I go to school? Many of them will tell you, why should I go to